if you got 'em. Time to torch down the house, y'all. Welcome to at Shannabis TV. Everybody, this is Bob Calkin. He has been around longer than myself. I've actually believe he's one of the first people that I've been connected with on social media and cannabis for a generation at this point, something like that, 10 years, as long as LinkedIn's been around, I guess. Let me tell the audience a little bit about you. So Bob Calkin, he started the Cannabis Career Institute, also Canna Jobs. You got a lot of people, good employment. I remember when you did that. You were the first cannabis college course for Dunlap. Spanish language cannabis business seminars, and you also were a pilot advisor on the show Weeds. You're out of California, right?
That's right.
Well, Bob, welcome to our little chat. And now you are the VP of Human Resources at MJRX. So Tell me about yourself, like from, when you got started. Let's hear something we don't know from the internet.
Well, I started in the cannabis industry when I was 11. So I've been smoking pot every day since then. I'm 56. So if anybody ever wonders about the safety of cannabis, I would say that I'm a big advocate of it being the safest alternative to any kind of thing that you could ever use. And I've always been a proponent of it. I started a delivery service shortly after I came to California, which was in 1987. And it was the very first cannabis delivery service, and I operated for about 30 years. So I think I've done more cannabis transactions than anybody I've ever met. And so having that experience and knowing so many people, because I was at the front lines of the AIDS crisis in West Hollywood. And I'm not sure if everybody really realizes that the whole medical marijuana system became in place because of West Hollywood and San Francisco, which both had medical marijuana programs implemented because the city councils were concerned about the AIDS crisis. So really, medical marijuana started because of the AIDS crisis and kind of snowballed from there. So really we owe a lot to West Hollywood and a lot to San Francisco's city councils for starting that off. And around that time in the 90s, all through from about 87 through the 90s, the AIDS crisis was a big part of the clientele that I was serving. So I got a lot of experience with terminally ill patients and a bedside manner and interacting with all the different kinds of medical issues that there are that cannabis helps. And so not only did I meet pretty much everybody in the West Hollywood area, but I got to meet a lot of people in the music industry, because I focused on the music industry primarily because I was a musician, and that was the whole reason why I wanted a job in cannabis, was because it offered me the flexibility to pay for all the things that I needed to pay for as a musician, recording and touring and doing all that stuff.
What instrument? What instrument?
I'm a bass player, and I was in a metal band called Rude Awakening for 30 years, the whole time that I was doing the marijuana delivery service, and that was my solution to not having to have a 9-to-5 job and not having a benefactor to pay for all the things you need to pay for yourself when you're a musician.
Freedom.
Yeah. So I owe a lot to cannabis. I put both of my kids through college and private school with cannabis. And so, I'm very grateful for all the opportunities that it's given me through my life.
That's incredible. That's, thank you. Thank you for all you've done. And, I remember hearing stories, and I was growing up in Florida, and we had, indoor and outdoor. That's what we had down there, and I was basically, all the 90s. It was that's why I named my product line Purple Leaf Hemp, because purple stood for the quality buds, the good indoor grown cannabis, versus the outdoor, usually came from Jamaica, outdoor weed, right? So it was the green and the purple. That's how you ordered it. So I thought we could, since, I can't imagine right now what the farmers are going through, just in general, our food supply with everything going on with the pandemic. I mean, it's crazy, right? So I thought that maybe you could give some good advice on the genetics, on the sourcing of the genetics, because what I found is that a lot of farmers are buying seeds that, aren't really, it's very hard to verify a seed, right?
The genetics aren't
So,
reliable, or they're just not what they say they are. They're not identified properly. There's no way to verify the genealogy. Yeah, there's all kinds of issues. I agree.
so in your, Agri News put out this article, and talking about where some of the genetics come from and all that in hemp. And I say that, and I say that very sternly, because I'm sure you know what's coming next is medical cannabis has been lost in industrial hemp. And because of good old greed, we have a lot of genetics that are not potent enough to extract the high potency of cannabinoid output that
Oh
we
yeah,
need.
yeah.
So what can you speak on that? What is your advice to the farmers out there as they're going along, just trying to build their business right now, and they just need good information, a couple questions to ask, the person they're sourcing seeds from?
Well, of course, if you're talking about hemp, there are state-approved strains, at least in some of the states, that are your only choices to use. But if you're trying to figure out on your own a strain, or develop one, you're definitely going to have to get somebody on your team that is a scientist, right, or can answer those questions for you. Because, as you said, there's no system in place that's going to help you to know what you're getting, and the outcome is everything, and you have to know your outcome and what you're going to be doing before you even begin. So if you don't know what your source material is exactly, and I mean, I would say, if I was doing any kind of project where I really had to know the metrics, then I would have to start from tissue culture, or at the very minimum, somebody that was popping the seeds and verifying what I needed to know, the genetic information I needed to know.
And you can't guarantee femininity without germination. So
Right.
part of why seed growers got paid $10 a seed was because they would germinate it and verify it was feminine, and then would.
That's right. And then we are having to do that now. If we don't want to use a clone, then we have to pop a seed and then pay a fee for each one of those seeds to be verified. So that's definitely a cost you're going to have to factor in, at least on the first crop, so that from there, maybe if you're going to take cuttings from that, that's the correct medical value.
The less riskiest way of growing
Yeah,
this commodity.
you got
Now,
to start right from the beginning.
this goes into my next part is, do you believe that there are strong enough genetics out there that are under 0.3% and high enough in any cannabinoid profile, whether it be THC, CBD, CBN? Do you believe, because when I spoke at MJ Biz, my basic, my basic fundamentals of what I was trying to get across was, I don't believe the genetics are there yet, because it's simply, we haven't had the opportunity to do all of that. So most hemp crops are going to be hot, and they're going to
Yeah.
be filled with THC. Could you speak on that?
Well, again, you have no control over how many cannabinoids your plant produces, so it could end up at any level, as you're mentioning, and most of the time they're turning out hot. So to prevent that, again, you're just going to have to be more in control of that first generation of seeds. And I would suggest that this is a science-based industry, and you can't just take anybody's word for anything. And everything that has a COA, you can still influence those COAs. So I would say having a scientist on your board as a consultant is the only way to solve this issue, because you can't do it yourself.
So do you think that there's potent enough hemp crops out there that can be grown legally and not grow hot, but still give the value of the other cannabinoid profiles for output?
I'm a big proponent of full spectrum solutions, and I feel like isolating different cannabinoids from the plant doesn't really solve the problems that you're trying to achieve. But there are a lot of people that are just hung up on that. And I think that that was what was happening with the hemp industry, was everybody was chasing high CBD content and not realizing that it was very difficult, or at least they needed to consider all the other cannabinoids that are there, because that's going to, again, affect your outcome. So the green rush kind of caused everybody to just go with whatever genetics were available. And then they found out that that wasn't a viable decision.
Do you feel as though with the hemp industry, industrial hemp, which is what it's supposed to be for, the laws and the regulation, it's all set up for industrial hemp, not for medical cannabis or cannabinoid hemp?
Correct. That's right. The array of cannabinoids are really not what you're looking for in industrial hemp if you're trying to make a medical marijuana product. That's exactly right.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit, and I got some questions or some subject matter. Right, we covered that. So how do you propose, or do you know of any, I guess, libraries, DNA, where we're testing all these different genetics, so we can verify whether Bubba 99 in California or cookies, which I want to try, is the same as what somebody's purchasing on a shelf of a Bubba 99. I'm really tired of going like this and waving my finger at hemp flower people because they're calling their products Bubba Kush.
Oh yeah, that's incredibly misleading. And again, whenever I spoke in front of the U.S. House of Representatives and was trying to give them some ideas about how they should form or start formulating their cannabis program there, and genetics is obviously the first thing to consider. And I think that a lot of people in the hemp industry really need to get out in front of that and be proponents of biological research that are going to create strains that are suited for what it is they're doing. So they need to understand what they're doing and the difference between what they're doing and what the cannabis industry is doing, and stop trying to mix apples and oranges. And as you mentioned, I've been in some head shops where they're selling hemp flower and they're calling it all of these different marijuana or cannabis strains. And it really, it confuses the consumer, and it also makes people think that it's medical when it's not. And so they're buying these hemp products thinking they're going to get the same results from cannabis. And, it's the exact opposite. They're just getting trash. And at least I've noticed people coming into my dispensary now that their doctors are telling them, don't buy hemp-derived cannabinoid products. Ask them specifically for cannabis products that are made from cannabis. So at least the doctors are kind of realizing now that they could be pointing their patients in the wrong direction. And I was very surprised that any of them even had that savvy to either know it or explain it to their patients. So at least we're seeing some information that's correct being transmitted now from the doctors to the patients. But as you said, the hemp industry is doing a big disservice to the cannabis industry by using these strain names.
Can you say that one more time for the people in the cheap seats?
I think that the hemp industry is doing a tremendous disservice to the cannabis industry by using strain names on their products.
I couldn't agree with you more, Bob, on all all subject matter. It's been a very good interview. So thank you.
All right, great.
Thank you for doing this. Okay, so I got another one for you. What do you think is one of the most understood pieces of information or bad information out there that people really need to just stop paying attention to, flush it down the toilet? If somebody even says it, run.
Right. Well, there's a lot of misinformation about the effectiveness of CBD, that's for sure. And I think there's a lot of people who are making a lot of statements that really don't hold up. And not only that, but they're providing CBD that's not really in what I would call CBD. So if you're making CBD, for example, from inert hemp seeds, that's certainly not going to be the same CBD you would get from a quality cannabis plant. So I think that people thinking that they can, this costs so much here at the dispensary, I could just go to the gas station and buy these CBD pellets for, much cheaper. They don't understand that it's a completely and totally different product. So everybody's getting misled, and it's causing confusion in the marketplace because the cannabis folks can't sell their product effectively because it's being undercut by hemp products that are essentially worthless.
I thought that was a fabulous, fabulous response. All right. And you know what? I think we've, kind of come to time. I believe we've educated and informed rather well. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it, you taking your time out of your day. I'm glad you guys are an essential service in California. Congratulations. We spoke about real quick earlier that, this is actually this, coronavirus cleanse thing that's occurring within the medical community is actually providing doors that are opening to, there is no debate now on whether we can fast track any research projects because of anecdotal evidence. All we have to say is hydroxychloroquine, right? So as research and development, I believe, expands for many things, hopefully the grants and the people in the world that can advance medicine on all levels, especially now, things like cancer patients and all these patients having treatments that affect their autoimmune system, they can't walk around outside. So I believe that as things develop and change, that those patients might decide a more botanical path to, depending on their risk analysis.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you so much for being on here. And is there anything else that you would like to say to everybody? We're also live on Facebook. Say what up.
Okay. Well, I wanted to thank you for being a beacon of truth in the wilderness for other people that don't know anything about this industry. You and I have known each other for almost 10 years now, I think. And, we've always enjoyed educating the public, and that's always been our motivation, is helping other people to get the real information instead of getting scammed by a bunch of people that are trying to take advantage of them for monetary reasons. It really makes the industry look bad when there's people like that out there. And we have to do everything that we can to set the record straight, and I'm glad that you're doing that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I just hope all this is going to come out right on the next edit. So thank you so much for being the first guest on the Shannabis Cast.
Excellent. I'm proud to do so.
Thank you. All right. Well, have a good one. Talk to you later. Stay safe. Stay sane.
Thank
Bye.
You.